Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our big dive in to Marvel's new wondrous series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Obviously, we're hitting into week 2, so we've got 2 episodes to catch up with. And to dig into all of that wondrous stuff, I've got some fabulous guests here with me, starting over, as always, on top, the U.S. agent himself, Don Williams.
Greetings, everyone. We're here to talk about Disney's newest leftist propaganda, and I'm here to add some perspective and make sure that everything goes right. So I'll be turning it over to, a patriotic American, Agent Corrie Shoemaker, right down there.
She's actually not American, she's Canadian, but that's okay. She's bringing in an international perspective.
Sorry, if I could rearrange things, I'd have you up on top, so that we would have our proper North American look there.
That's okay,
But excellent. We'll get a little left, we'll get a little right, we'll get a little center perspective on tonight's show. Want to be sure to thank Silva Surfa joining us as always in the chat. Silva, you are amazing. And want to thank all of you that are watching in the archives. If you do enjoy this review, we have more that will be coming up every week, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, talking about this show. So be sure to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you won't miss a thing. All right, so let's dive right into our thoughts, kicking things off, I guess from our right perspective, U.S. agent himself. Don, why don't you let us know what you've been thinking of these first 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Okay, well, first off, let's talk about the Falcon and his social justice soldier, okay? Here we have a gentleman who was given an opportunity by the most patriotic American that there actually was, Steve Rogers, to be Captain America. But you know what? I think Mr. Falcon realized that he wasn't the right man for the job. He did go against the government and the Sokovia Accords, and so he did the right thing by turning over the shield so that we could get a proper American like John Walker to represent as Captain America. All right. Now, in the first episode, we see that he's having some troubles, with his financial situation. I understand he was gone for 5 years, but he needs to pull himself up by his bootstraps and stop blaming other people for the fact that his family business just totally sucks. Right, and as far as his friend, social justice soldier, he has his "I'm making amends" list. You can't make up for all of the atrocities that you did as a Hydra drone, okay? And you notice he didn't take full accountability for killing that man's son. Instead he wants to buy bubble tea and to play Battleship, all right? Where he should, they let him go because he's in therapy. That's what we're doing now. We don't want these war criminals to take accountability for their actions and to face consequences. My. I just I don't understand this leftist liberal propaganda that Disney is trying to push upon us. But it is what it is. It's a fascinating story so far. But I'm flabbergasted at the fact that they would try to have these renegades and try to prop them up as heroes when we have a patriotic American like John Walker who's really emblematic of someone who is worth of the legacy of Captain America.
All right. Well, Don, appreciate that very specific perspective on that. Yes, you can see exactly how much fun we are planning on having with all of these reviews, folks. Don, that was awesome. Let's maybe get a little different perspective, and then maybe I'll be more of the center on this one. Corrie, what have you thought about these first couple episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier?
It's certainly different because I'm coming off of finishing WandaVision, so it's quite a switch in terms of genre and style and all of that. I mean, I kind of read it as maybe this is a story of Sam learning how to take up the mantle he's been given, whether or not that's going to be the Captain America mantle or if there's something else he's going to grow into to become. It almost, in a way, reminded me of, say, The Lion King. Where, Simba, all of this will be yours one day. No, thanks, not interested, I'm leaving. Right? And he has to learn that this is what has been given him.
He's having his Hakuna Matata moment right now with Bucky. Okay.
He's having his Hakuna Matata moment. He's, having, bug buffets and no worries and until things, I guess, really become problematic. I also was wondering if he's being set up to fail. Because the first 2 episodes, he's really sent in with very little backup. And it seems like maybe he's being set up to fail in this role so that they can just cart in the Captain America they want.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, I think it can certainly prey upon his own personal doubts. And I love the fact that we see that it was the same unnamed politician that shakes his hand and says, "You did the right thing bringing that shield." Yeah, it's also the exact same one who introduces John Walker by the end of the episode. So I certainly believe, I think you're right on that the politics behind certainly would prefer a different Captain America. And I think that's, again, part of the arc that we're looking in through this.
If I may rebut that real quick, because I don't like the insinuation that he's been set up to fail. America has done nothing but try to help people like Sam, and then all he does is complain about, the government won't give me anything. Look, the government gave you wings to fly, all right? So go fly and do something good for the country instead of complaining about, I don't have any money to save my parents' business. And
apparently he can save the world for free, but you're not going to pay him for that. But you want to mix him over whether it qualifies for current SBA standards. Yeah.
And considering the people he was flying with, you'd think somebody could be helping out. Like, didn't Tony set up a, Avengers retirement plan or support, bank account where if you're in trouble, you can put it in a petition of, hey, I need some money because we're going to lose our boat.
Hey, listen, just because Sam only has skills of base jumping and nothing else, that's not on Tony Stark to fund his lifestyle, okay? Sam needs to go out and get some skills, all right, maybe get a college degree or something, and try to find a decent paying job, all right? Instead of sitting there complaining about, I never got any money as being an Avenger. It was all about goodwill. Yeah, well, goodwill doesn't pay the bills, and now he's learning the consequences of that.
Hey, small business is the backbone of the American economy, especially small family-run businesses like the family shrimp boating or regular fishing, but I don't know what they did. I think it was regular fish. I'm sorry. I'm should be more clever in my comebacks on this. But actually, let's kind of get into that because I think that is kind of an interesting point with how they're looking at the reality of lives of Sam and Bucky kind of entering into the world. And we can drift into Sam, I think, kind of first. But I do want to hit about that point about money, because this is the first time I think it's really been brought up in the Marvel universe. And we've always, as fans, questioned, how do you survive? How do you live as being a hero? And apparently it's on goodwill. And I'm sure Stark was probably keeping the Avengers Mansion or the Avengers North stocked with supplies.
Well, he does. He does have that one comment where he says something along the lines of, I'm the one who funds everything. They just need it. I provide it. I mean, when they're having a bit of an argument in one of the movies. So we know that Stark is bankrolling everything.
I think actually in Ultron, he makes some comment to Maria Hill about, oh no, Cap's in charge. I just pay for everything and build everything and make everything look cool. But that is kind of an interesting point that we can dive in. The fact is, how do you survive as an Avenger if you are not the God of Thunder and you're not, an uber rich Captain America? Obviously, Hawkeye, I guess, has a shield pay and Black Widow as well. I mean, Banner, I don't know. Banner's just living on Stark's couch, I guess, effectively. But yes,
Banner is under like Stark Tech payment. Like he's hired by Stark. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Okay. You could go through that. Yeah. But now with Stark gone, who is going to bankroll everyone? And I think it's just kind of an interesting real world, idea to bring up to the fact is like, they don't work for the government. They're not, who would they be getting a paycheck from? And I guess, Sam was semi-retired. He was working at the Y. He was doing some volunteer work. He probably had some allowance from the Air Force before that. Now he's got contracts. He's got a job, and obviously collateral, but still can't get a loan. And I think that is one of my favorite points of them hitting on, and I know they hit it a few times in these first two episodes, but just the reality of, hey, it doesn't matter if you're an Avenger, you're still a black man in America, and you still have to navigate all of those. And I know that could probably be looked on as, overdoing it sometimes, but I think it's an important point to have and explore, because this is the reality of the world that we're living in, and we want the show to reflect those realities.
Go ahead, ladies first.
Okay. I was just going to say quickly that Sam and Rhodey have that conversation too, where they mention everything has changed. The world is in chaos because of, they call it the blip. I wish this was a better term. Like the
I hate that.
Sounds better. But obviously they're alluding to the fact that there is economic problems going on, and perhaps a crash of some kind. So people are struggling. And also I think it ties in very well with sort of the veterans experience, because there's so many people who have served with the Army in Canada and the US, and oftentimes those are the people that kind of fall through the cracks at the end of the day. The heroes that saved and helped, are struggling to get veterans fee and payouts so that they can just survive and live and keep their house and these things. And so I like that they brought that up as well. And we see that with, again, I don't want to jump into it, but Isaiah, who is a veteran and a black man, and we see where he is and the reality of his.
Oh, yeah. And we will definitely be getting into Isaiah Bradley, because that is another huge point from these first episodes that really kind of expand the reality, the uncomfortable reality of the MCU and us as well. Do you have anything to add on to their U.S. agent?
Yes. Look, Sam's problems are Sam's problems. Okay. The fact that he, decided to volunteer his time, that is very good. But at the end of the day, volunteering doesn't pay the bills, and he knows this. So he needs to go and find some real work. Now, he says he has government contracts. So I'm pretty sure that he should be able to work out some sort of deal with his landlord that will allow him to stay in his current residence until the government pays him out. But it's not like he's being left to fend for himself on the streets. Look,
kind of is.
Listen, what, the man was a criminal, all right, running around with government property property that didn't belong to him for over 2 years. All right. And okay, so yeah, he helped to save the world and the universe from the big purple monster and
Sure.
his army. Okay, wow, because that's not something that everyone could have done. He's so special because he's got his robotic wings from Stark or whoever, and his little drone. All right, but you see what happens when he had to go against the Flag Smashers, right? He wasn't able to hold his own. He needed a true American to save him. He needed John Walker and Battlestar to come in and save his butt. All right.
Yeah, Battlestar just flying, like, kicked that one guy that just sort of kept going, didn't he? just hanging there.
Go according to plan.
that was not an impressive. Actually, unfortunately, that was one of the downs. I think the first episode was definitely better than the second one. I love the setup. I love the emotional gravity. Also, you had the great opening fight with the return of Batroc the Leaper from Winter Soldier. I thought was awesome. A lot of helicopters. That was one thing, man. They set up a lot of helicopters on the just in case plan. So good for Batroc for planning ahead, I guess.
I mean, where is Sam's backup? That was my question. I mean, there was literally like 2 trucks, and that's it. And
on the ground saying you're getting close to the border. That was his backup.
The helicopters? Like, really?
I mean, you're talking about someone who was recently an enemy of the state.
Yeah. We got.
What are you really trying to give this person? This is someone who probably went in on covert ops, and this is more of a if you don't make it out, we disavow any knowledge of this operation taking place. So you can't really expect him to have too much military backup. And really, does he deserve it? Does Sam Wilson, the Falcon, really deserve all that much backup?
Well, I think what it's establishing is that he doesn't need backup. It is, I mean, in some ways, it is, and maybe they adhere it a little close to very much, Captain America: Winter Soldier. He jumps out of the plane very similarly. He's going up against Batroc, which I think was a nice callback. It's certainly kind of it. We're seeing him having his arc of kind of getting used to living in this new world, much like Cap was in that, and in a way coming up to earning the mantle that Cap believes in him. And I think so in many ways he is running through that same arc that we saw in Winter Soldier of trying to do the right thing, working for the system, it not working for him, and finding out that he has to, follow his own beliefs in those cores. And I think that is if you're going to follow a movie in the MCU, that's the one to follow.
Some cool things I noticed is that we have some sort of similarities to also how they film Iron Man flying with Falcon, with the close up on the visuals face. And then also Tony did that sort of like jump out of the plane thing, like where he threw his helmet.
Too. Yeah.
Give me a kiss, and she kisses the helmet, and then he flies. So there's a lot of similarities there. I also loved that fight scene within the plane, or the helicopter, technically, when they were speaking French, because it reminded me of the fight scene that Steve had in an earlier film where he was having the conversation with one of the guys who was speaking French, and he's like, I thought you would be better than this. And Steve said something like, oh, we'll see.
Well, yeah, it's Batroc.
In French. So that was great. I'm assuming it's the same guy. I can't keep all of the characters straight in my head sometimes.
Honestly, it was what caught me is they keep the same kind of purple and yellow jacket that they had from Winter Soldier, which again stuck with me because that's that's the colors of the character in the comics, and how are you going to make a yellow and purple like outfit work on screen?
Yeah.
And they did. They made it a jacket. They toned down the colors, and then it's just a style for him. So, yeah, it's, I think, one of the good things they did.
And being Canadian, I was excited to hear French. I was like, oh, mais oui.
Excellent. Excellent.
Je me comprends. I understand what you're saying. This is so cool. Keep talking. Yeah.
Yeah, so a fun way to open things up, certainly kicks us off into the adventure excitement part, and then of course we get to continue to follow Sam's kind of adventure, like we said, going back to his family, the family financial troubles, and the reality that, hey, being a hero doesn't mean that you're going to be able to pay your bills. You've got to be able to do something else. Now, at the same time, of course, we are picking up with Bucky, who is trying to live in this new world as well, and dealing with kind of situations all his own. Now, we did get to see this in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In a couple of seasons, but this is the first time in our mainline MCU we get to see one of our characters in therapy. This doesn't count Stark talking to Hulk or talking to Banner at the end of Iron Man 3. He's not a professional.
I'm not that kind of a doctor.
Not that kind of a doctor. But this is kind of an interesting way, and I love the fact that we have a therapist who is an ex-soldier that has no problem telling him, "I know you're lying to me. We got to sit on stuff." It does create a very good dynamic, and then we get an even better dynamic with that in the follow-up scene in episode 2. But yeah, Corey, what do you think about Bucky's whole little arc here? Not only of just going through therapy, but kind of the issues of his own personal therapy mission, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that they did a very strong parallel between him and Steve. Because remember, Steve makes the comment to Sam. Well, Sam says something about, it's your bed, right? It's too soft. It's like a marshmallow.
Yeah.
Into it. And that's where they first kind of really connected, not as soldiers and, partners, but as friends. Like that was that connection point. And we see when Bucky wakes up from his nightmare, he's sleeping on the ground, on the floor. He's not in the bed. And so I just love those little subtle sort of nods they put in towards the fact that he is still very much damaged, still working through so much PTSD. Still, he might be free, as the therapist said, but his response, he's trying to figure out free to do what? Like, what's the point of being alive? What is my purpose? When Steve was there, he had a purpose, right? He was Steve's wingman. He was Steve's backup. We have those clips from Captain America: First Avenger where Steve is, telling the guys to move forward, and then someone gets shot, and the camera pans across, and we see Bucky. Basically, he's got him. He's taking point.
Yeah.
And so I love that we get to see that kind of broken, fractured essence of Bucky and how he's trying to navigate not only in a completely modern world, but what do you do when you have your brain back, but it's kind of been put through the laundry and bleached and hung out to dry. And so I like that we got to see that. And
yeah, well, and it's one thing that he had hit on particularly in Civil War, is the fact that he remembers everything.
Yeah.
He's no longer under Hydra's control for sure, but he remembers every mission, everything that he has done. And the weight of that, to not even be able to forget it or push off oh, I don't remember, it wasn't me. It's like, yeah, it wasn't me, but it was me.
Yeah.
And how does he circle that square?
Exactly. And he's not really able to move forward. He goes on a date, but the whole date scenario is just awkward, and the questions that are being asked are questions that have double meaning for him. Like she says, "I'm trying to read your mind," and he says, "Don't do that."
Oh, yeah.
It's like you have no idea what he's been through. That's like, don't even joke about that. And the fact that, you know, they're playing Battleship, but which kind of is almost laughable because knowing his history, like he's been playing Battleship from the moment he was taken by Hydra and not of his own will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really sad that these things that are supposed to be normal in life and almost fun and helping him move forward are only reminding him of the destruction and loss of his past. And without having a Steve there, I'm hoping that Sam is going to become the Steve for Bucky.
Yeah.
And they'll stop fighting like an old married couple and actually start working together.
Want to do a quick response to Devontae here in the chat. Welcome, Devontae. Can Bucky get drunk? No, not really. He's also a super soldier, just through Hydra, kind of like what Steve was. Not at the same level because, you know, Cap was Cap. But yeah, can't really get drunk, which is sort of his comment on how much he could be putting back there.
Also, I love how he apologizes. It's like in the most threatening way possible. He takes over the car. It looks, everyone thinks he's just going to kill her. And then his response is, "I am Bucky Barnes. I am no longer the Winter Soldier. This is part of my recovery program. Thank you and have a nice day."
Walks away as the police all show up.
Oh, it's like, Bucky, I like, are you really trying? Or are you just like, yeah.
He's got to relearn a lot of social skills.
Yeah.
I think he has enough social anything on his plate right now. Okay, we don't need any more social anything from the social justice soldier. Right? Yeah. Listen, he needs to make amends. He's done a lot of bad things, and he needs to stop blaming Hydra for all of the wrong he's done. All right. Everything is over
mind control. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, mind control. It's all your own fault.
Yeah, I was mind controlled. I didn't have any control over anything. You know what? Take some responsibility for your actions. All right, Mr. James Buchanan Barnes, social justice soldier.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump back into some of the questions on the chat while we have been discussing all of these points. Silver Surfer brings up Sam not calling Pepper or T'Challa for a loan is lame. You know, I got to put that up. That should be his. Now I understand he's probably proud. He wants to make his own way. But yeah, man, you got to use those Avengers connections. Seriously. Let's see. Also mentioning Captain America isn't rich. No, but he was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. And who knows what kind of like pay structure, payback that he had built up after being in ICE for all that time. You know, I'm just going to say it's probably a few dollars. Let's see.
Oh, but he does say that he can't afford the apartment he's living in right now.
Oh, yeah, he did. He's like, couldn't afford a place in Brooklyn. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I don't think I could afford this now.
Let's see. We got and also Silva mentions that's why Luke Cage is a hero for hire. Yeah, eventually you got to start thinking about the bottom line there. Let's see. Devontae mentions being on the run as outlaws, you would think they would have collected some of the illegal earnings they detoured like great S.H.I.E.L.D. agents did. That's true, but not really Bucky's or not really Sam's style. Certainly not a Sam or Cap style. That would have been, I think, a little more Black Widow, even Hawkeye, I think, along those lines. All right, so let's get into kind of our little duel scene that we had, which I think is the ultimate arc that we're going to have for our duo, for our heroes. And that is, of course, once Bucky gets picked up by the cops for missing his therapy session, That all happened really fast, didn't it? How often does he have to go to therapy? Is like every other day, or I'm not sure what his setup would be. But they get in the emergency therapy session, which is treated perfectly like couples counseling. And that's what we got. It's a buddy cop movie. We got the one that feels too much, the one that doesn't feel enough, the jokester and the overly serious, the two of these that have to learn to come together. And God, one of the most heartbreaking moments in the middle of this, while it was funny and while it was enjoyable, I'm getting to the core of Bucky's arc here. When he unloads on Sam and he asks him why he gave up his shield. Cap believed in you, and if he was wrong about you, maybe he's wrong about me. Which just breaks my heart even thinking about it, because that's what Bucky's doing through all of this. I mean, the guy whose son he killed, and he can't bring himself to tell him because he's too human. What do you say? How do you apologize for something like that? You try to be a friend, but you can't even really do that because every moment is a reminder of what you have done. Yeah. And Cap believed he could be redeemed. And I think that's where Bucky is. Bucky is looking for redemption, not from the outside, not from a pardon, not from that external forgiveness. He needs it from inside, from himself. And I think, between him and Sam learning that he has to, he also has to believe in what Cap believes, that he is capable of being the new Captain America. I don't know. I'm going off on this, but it's an emotional thing. There was a lot happening on it. And I'm going to start with you, Corey, because I know Agent Williams here has some right-wing things to say on that. You're going to have to break that sooner or later, Don. But yeah, actually dive in, either one of you. What do you think about that? The arc, the crush of what we are looking for through this series between these two characters.
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier that I was hoping Sam is going to become Bucky's kind of Steve Rogers, because Steve isn't there. He's going to fill those shoes or those boots one way or another. One thing someone had brought up online regarding the therapist, when they're having that kind of staring contest.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you having a staring contest? Like, this is supposed to be a gazing into each other's eyes. And then she tells him, she's like, Barnes, blink. But what was interesting is that blinking is what stops him from going into that like mind control kind of place. Oh. In the other episodes or earlier in them, you see him when he goes into that like depressive state. If he is pulled out of it, it's because he's kind of blinked and come back to himself. And so it's kind of like, it's a bit of a stretch, but I thought it was interesting that the guy who, does the staring contest, and they make jokes about, all he does is stare straight ahead. Is that because blinking is kind of representative of him no longer being under that control?
Sure. I would totally see that, at least even from a character standpoint, to believe in that, because that hypnotic state tends to be with eyes open, and just and blinking breaks that wall there. Don, do you have anything to add on top of that?
Well, listen, Steve Rogers was wrong. Okay. Obviously, the years of him being frozen in ice warped his mind. He turned against the government, and then he recruits these renegades to do these covert missions with him, breaking the Sokovia Accords. And then after he decides, to return the Infinity Stones, he goes and breaks the laws of time to live out his own life, and then comes back and gives Sam the shield and says, hey, you know what, former partner in crime, you can now be Captain America. but something in Sam knows that what he was doing was wrong, and so he did the right thing, turning over the shield. Now Bucky is saying that, oh well, if Steve was wrong about you, then maybe he was wrong about me. Well, yeah, obviously, because Bucky is still wrestling with not wanting to hurt people. He has he constantly has to keep on being reminded of what rule number 2 is. Rule number 2 is not to hurt anyone, and yet he constantly has to ask the therapist, "I'm sorry, what is rule number 2 again? What is rule number 2 again?" Because he wants to hurt people. This is someone who is an unrepentant savage, and the fact that the government actually let him out into society, I think is actually a travesty, and someone needs to be held accountable for having this assassin and renegade loose on the streets.
Look, if the MCU has taught us anything, it's that everything can be solved by punching.
Well, aren't they all technically assassins? I mean, they've all been trained, so And as Nat says, right, you're not going to put us away because you'll need us. Also, Cap was considered a war criminal for a short period of time, so.
Very true. Very true. Well, and we've got, let's move on to, time's kicking on. We got sort of like fixated on the Sam and Bucky, but that's an easy thing to do. We do want to hit on some of our alternate super soldiers that we have coming into the mix. And the first stuff is, of course, our replacement Cap, John Walker, who pops out at the end of episode 1. We get to see a little bit more about him in episode 2. And look, I got to give it up to the actor. If your goal was to make us think you're a douchebag, you have done your job, sir. Because even my wife was sitting there looking over like, I don't like this guy at all. And I'm like, good, that he's doing his job.
Yeah.
Because we're not supposed to. And I really like the fact that even from the get-go, there's something odd with him in his locker room. And I'm assuming his wife and or girlfriend coming in, talking about what we used to do. And then he leaves and hands it off to Battlestar there to kind of move on up. Like, this is somebody that needs his team, that needs that support, that there's something, I don't know, off with John Walker. And he certainly doesn't have, well, he tries to think that he's playing with the group. There is something really off with him. And I like the fact that even if you can't put your finger on it, we know that it is there. Dawn, what about, what's your take on John Walker and his compadre Battlestar? Battlestar? All right, I'm out. Stop the car.
John Walker is a patriotic American. This is the first man to win the Medal of Honor 3 times, okay? 3 times, all right? We know that he jumps on grenades, which, he showing that he's out there risking his own life to protect our freedoms here. And yet you guys think that somehow that is a bad thing. I don't understand what your aversion to America is, all right? But John Walker and Lamar Hoskins are patriotic heroes, okay? Captain America and Battlestar forever, all right? Those are good men, and the fact that you have the Falcon and the social justice soldier trying to say that they don't belong there and they can't fill the shoes of Steve Rogers, all right? They don't need to fill Steve Rogers' shoes because Steve Rogers' shoes were filled with cement anyway. So, yeah, these are the guys that we need representing America, all right? And also the fact that Sam got offended because, John Walker asked, that patriotic American asked Sam Wilson to stand at his side. All right, he stood at the side of a war criminal, and now a patriotic soldier, someone who was doing good for the world, asked him to stand by him, and what does he do? He blows him off. I astonishing.
It's always that second part, because he's the sidekick.
Hey,
he's
you know
calling
what?
him a sidekick.
Hey, look,
Sam is no one's sidekick.
Listen, you know what? Battlestar knows his place. Sam needs to learn his as well.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I'm going to hold on that one there. Yeah. I'm going to jump back into the chat.
I mean,
even Don's got one to stop there. Ramona Floyd mentions in the chat beautifully. I think you've got it right on. John Walker is like the dude from the first Avenger. He sounds good on paper. And even John mentions, yeah, I've jumped on a grenade 3 times. I got this helmet. You know who doesn't need a helmet? Steve Rogers doesn't need a helmet to jump on. His little skinny body just try to curl as much meat around that grenade as he can. And yeah, that's the thing. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some comments if you.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I took some notes. These are my notes about the new Steve Rogers. I was very divided because I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it just seemed like something, as you said, was off from the get-go. And he says that he's trying to be his best version, but he's going behind Sam's back. And I think when he started threatening them, that was when I'm like, okay, this is not Steve in any way, shape, or form. He said, like, just stay out of my way. I'm like, wait, I'm sorry, what? Steve would never do that. Steve, at least tries to understand someone else's point of view. We see even with, Civil War, he tries to negotiate with Tony, and when push comes to shove and there's no other option, then he's willing to fight. But he's not the person that wants to go beat up bullies, right? From the first, he just doesn't like any bullies.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to get involved in a war. He does it because he has to. Also, he blatantly lies about things. His wife or girlfriend asks him if he's nervous, and he's like, I'm never nervous. Really? Come on. Yeah. Even Steve Rogers was nervous. Or he's making those jokes when they're putting him in the machine. And, it's like, that wasn't too bad. And the doctor's like, that was penicillin. Oh, is it too late to go to the bathroom? Right? Like nervous energy. So yeah, he's nervous, but that's okay. And one of the points I thought was quite interesting, someone had brought up online, is that the A on the new Captain America's uniform, it only becomes an A if he's fully suited up. So it's not him in the uniform that makes it Captain America. It's him putting something on that makes him Captain America, which is a big difference. And he claims that the big thing about Steve is that Steve had guts. Well, Steve had more than guts. It wasn't just his gumption and willingness to run straight into danger that made Steve Captain America. It was his willingness to do what was right, and his willingness to sacrifice at all cost, not just, I'm going to be a thrill seeker. That wasn't how he operated. And compassion was a large part of who he was. And
I was going to say, I would say that Steve had heart more than he had guts. That's what drove him with everything. And maybe that's kind of the different things is Steve wasn't trying to be someone else. He was just trying to do what he thought was the right thing, where obviously now he has a now that self is a mantle, and that's what John is trying to do. I want to live up to this. I don't want to let people down. Mm-hmm. He's trying to fit a mold as opposed to being himself. And I think that's going to be part of his conflict. Again, he thinks it's about guts, And Sam's going to learn that no, it's about the heart, and that's what makes you Captain America. More than what just the mantle is.
And I was slightly insulted that he said Steve felt like a brother. Especially they show that line when they're showing Bucky watching the interview and Sam walking across, and it's like, no, you didn't even know Steve Rogers. These two guys are his brothers in arms, Sam Wilson and Bucky, who literally, and then this guy has the audacity to kind of talk back to Bucky Barnes. I'm like, you literally have no respect for like the original Bucky and Steve. Like if that was me, I would be trying to learn as much as possible from Bucky about what was Steve like and like real life experience Steve, and how can I apply that to my position now as being the new Captain America. But no, he just has to insult everyone.
Is he really trying to take lessons from a Hydra assassin? I mean, look, yes, this is a guy who was Steve Rogers' friend, but he later became Steve Rogers' enemy. And as part of the reason that we no longer have S.H.I.E.L.D. is because of Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes. All right. So, you know what? I think that it is probably a lot better that he does not take his cues from the social justice soldier or the Falcon. All right. These are people who should be looking up to him because he was brave enough to take on the mantle of Captain America without having any sort of super soldier enhancements. Right. He's out there saving the world and saving democracy and American freedom, instead of self-aggrandizing and thinking that, he's some type of world savior because he fought some purple alien.
You do actually hit an interesting point there. He is not a super soldier. He is just a what we would call a human at the peak of capacity.
But is he? I mean, I had doubts about that because they said he went above the charts on everything, intelligence, blah, 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 but he's not acting like it.
Well, I think we may end up finding a little bit more about John Walker. I mean, I don't know. I have my suspicions of how much of he may be manufactured and how much might be real and how much he might have been already subjected to things. I think that might be something to find out. Certainly the capacity to throw and catch that shield is a little questionable. I mean, Cap could do it because he's Cap.
I think the difference between Steve Rogers and this John Walker is that John Walker is the definition of everything unique about you came out of a test tube. I'm going to argue. I think he's probably an enhanced version of a super soldier.
Okay. Yeah, I would be curious. If not now, he will certainly probably try to be enhanced before the end of the season if they get a hold of the power broker or any of that. Let's see. Devontae Smith mentioned had a brief question here in the chat, and I think that's a good point. When did the Shield ever become government property? I thought it was Tony Stark's.
Good point.
That's up. Yes, technically Howard did use the vibranium to make the shield and gave it to Cap, and Tony does say in Civil War that my dad made this for him. However, was the vibranium belonging to the U.S. government and Howard just made that? Did it become, I don't know. Honestly, I think that's a good question of who does the shield actually belong to? Because, I don't know if it's government. I mean, he donated it to a museum.
Yeah.
Under, I think, false circumstances. I think they stole it from him. Yeah.
Is that the original shield? Because we saw in Avengers Endgame the shield was broken. And then this is a shield that Steve brings back from an alternate timeline when he travels through time to give to Sam. So I saw some speculation online of maybe the shield is a different shield from that time period, and therefore could it even not be vibranium? Could it be the original adamantium alloy?
The adamantium vibranium alloy? Yeah.
Could it have additional properties that we're going to find out about?
That would be a nice way to introduce that particular mix. I think that's up in the air of where it is, but yeah, I don't know. I think the question of the ownership of the Shield is a good one, and maybe something that'll actually be sort of sorted through this by the end of the season, assuming it's just a singular season and not a series unto it like WandaVision was. Look, we're getting pretty late. We still got two really important people to talk about. Let's jump back since we're on our Captain America. Let's do a flashback to the 1950s and the attempts to continue with the super soldier serum that led to the creation of our Black Captain America, Isaiah Bradley. An awesome character to bring into this, especially since we are talking about questions of race and being a person of color in the U.S., both currently and historically, because Isaiah Bradley has a crushing story. And they based it off of the actual Tuskegee experiments way back when they took a community of black men, told them they were getting shots for syphilis, and instead got nothing, and let it rampage through their families, through their community for 40 years, just so they could see what the effects were. But Bradley's Isaiah's story is similar. 300 black men were taken to be for Project Rebirth. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them died, and by the end, there eventually was just one, Isaiah Bradley, who was, appreciated by the end of his service by being thrown in jail for 30 years. Yeah. Don, you got something to say about Isaiah here?
So, Mr. Isaiah Bradley.
Come on, Dad.
Mr. Isaiah Bradley. What is there to be said about him other than, I don't believe his story. Okay. Obviously, he does have some sort of enhancements as a government handout because, we know how people like him like government handouts. So, look, he probably had some terms of service that he violated, which is why he was incarcerated for 30 years. I don't think that the government, our illustrious government, would do anything like that to one of its citizens, where they would grant them powers, put them on the battlefield, have them be Captain America, and then say, okay, well, as a thank you for doing such a great job, here you go, we're going to lock you away and experiment on you. I don't believe that. Something rings absolutely false about that story, and I think that there's a left-wing conspiracy government cover-up and this is more liberal propaganda to besmirch our great nation. And I think that people really, really need to look into MK Ultra and see what things really lie beneath the surface.
Thank you for giving us a reflection of the white history that was been painted over all of these actual parts of history. Don, you are awesome and dark. I love you. Corey, what about yourself? How did you feel about Isaiah's story and all of the complexities and dark realities reflected in it?
Well, I did a little bit of research, and I know that the character is fairly new in the comic history in terms of him being introduced into the Marvel comic run. So that obviously reflects a changing perspective of our current time towards a positive, storyline. But I think I'm glad that they brought him into the show, because I think it reflects the reality of so many African American Black men and Canadian men who served during World War II. And oftentimes people of color or even like First Nations don't really get credit for their service, along with all the other men who volunteered during World War II. So I think it's important to shine a light on everyone who was involved in that war. But I can't really put myself into his shoes and speak from his perspective, because
Sure.
I'm a white Caucasian woman. But I can definitely, I'm glad that they brought him in, and it just made me think of all the other Black superhero characters or Black characters that Cap was involved with. I mean, his team, the Howling Commandos, had, a Black gentleman on the team. And so I like that, Sam asks Bucky, did Cap know about this? And Bucky says, no, he didn't. I never told him. And then when Sam gets upset about how could the government do this, Bucky's response is, I haven't said anything. We haven't done anything about it because he's been through enough. He just wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
And so it isn't that Bucky's involved in some kind of a cover-up. It's that actually Bucky sees him as, if not a friend, then a co-patriot, a brother at arms, and they've both been through the same thing. And I also liked that when he makes the comment about you people, which everyone assumes right off the bat has to do with like white versus Black. And Sam even assumes that, because he's like, dude, Bucky, when he said that, he didn't mean, and then Bucky clears it up of, no, when he says you people, he means Hydra.
Yeah.
So we know that Isaiah was tested on by the American government.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also know that at some point Hydra got their hands on him. And is that how we now have super soldiers popping up? Did they use his blood to create another super soldier serum?
Right. And I think that's what we're going to find out being the case of it. And yeah, I think it was. Yeah. By the way, the comic, for those unfamiliar, is Truth, Red, White, and Black. And that tells the story of Isaiah Bradley and his history as Captain America. Kind of briefly, it's a very messed up story in the sense of just showing how people of color have been treated in the U.S. Certainly, how soldiers can be tossed away once they are used. I have not fought. My brother has fought. My family has fought, and I have seen how vets can be brought up in the public eye and then in the reality by the government, often not treated properly for the sacrifice that they have given. So it's a sad bit of reality, but I like the fact that Marvel is not shying away from that is an integral part of their story, is not just being a hero, but being a person. And I think that's maybe kind of the interesting thing about the way the Marvel stories are being told. Being a hero is the job, but you still have to go back to being a person. And a lot of times, with a lot of the DCs recently have been focusing more on learning to be the hero, and that is your life. And that can be a great point of storytelling as well. I personally prefer enjoy the fact that, like, yes, you can be a hero, but you still got to go home and pay the bills, and you got to grocery shop, and you've got to wake up and still look at yourself in the mirror after everything that you've done the next day. And to me, that is a much more interesting tale than just, hey, can you learn to run fast?
It's that like classic quote from the New Adventures of Lois and Clark, where he says, Superman is what I can do, but Clark Kent is who I am. Yeah.
And I think that's really kind of the essence of what Cap was. Captain America is the title. It was his job, but he was that because he was Steve Rogers, ultimately.
I also liked the comment that Sam made where he was walking down the street and that boy was like, hey, it's Black Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
I love how they called out that it's stupid to identify someone just by that. It's like one of us. So I'm white Canadian, and you're like what, like Asian like flying superhero. Like what? And I think Stab is actually the one who calls it out and is like, "This is ridiculous. So what am I going to call you? Like Black Kid?"
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that because you have all the Black Lightning and the Black Panther and the Black. This is like, can't they just be the guy? He's just the guy.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, we have mentioned with Isaiah's kind of suffering. He was experimented on for some time. Of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. was already infiltrated that time by Hydra. And maybe they are the people behind it because our other superpowered villains for this season is the Flag Smashers, or are the Flag Smashers, as it is a group name as opposed to just an individual. And I think they did a very cool gender swap by giving us Carly Montague. Am I saying it right? Mogenthal. Look, I'm just going to say they gender swapped. It's Carly now. She's awesome. I love the reveal right into Bucky's face on that. But yeah, we've got some super powered villains running from the Power Broker, who, maybe we've heard of this before. Ant-Man and the Wasp wasn't our villain there, working for someone that was unnamed. Could it have been the Power Broker? Is he the one that's going to start supplying enhanced people throughout the Marvel Universe? We have a bunch of villains going on. What do you guys think about both our Flag Smasher group, their leader, and who might be the power behind them, or the source of the power behind them? Don, why don't you lead us off here?
Well, first off, let's talk about the Miss Carly Morgenthau and her Flag Smashers, right? So obviously, they're anti-American. We can tell this from the fact that they want to bring down our system of government because they hate us for our freedoms. So this is a perfect example of why we needed someone like John Walker and Lamar Hoskins to come in and put a stop to
their ass kicked.
Sorry. Hey, watch it there, buddy. All right, watch it. Okay. So look, these people are obviously evil. They're evil and they need to be stopped. They're running around stealing vaccines, things that could be used to possibly stop another pandemic. I mean, even though pandemics are not real, and this is just an example of when you don't have the U.S. in the lead, how things become run amok throughout the world, and so yeah, these Flag Smashers, they really, really need to be stopped. And whoever this Power Broker is, obviously he has way too much influence, and it's going to have to be the forces of John Walker and Lamar Hoskins to bring him down, because obviously the Falcon and Social Justice Soldier are not able to do it. They're just mucking things up. So yeah, I just I hope that our true American heroes, Captain America and Battlestar, are going to be able to thwart this foe before they are able to do some harm to the American public and our way of life. So go Captain America and Battlestar.
I'm really going to be tempted not to change the title of this show to Falcon and the Social Justice Soldier. I don't know. There's a ring to it. I kind of like that.
A hollow ring?
There's a hollow ring to it. Nice. Yeah. So, okay. Well, that is a look. Corey, you got a thought on that there? Maybe a little different one?
Sure. Definitely different one. At first, I wasn't really sure about the Flag Smashers because they're set up and presented as this terrorist group. They're set up as these are the people that we have to stop. These are the people that the government is looking into. They're terrorists. They're bad. But then we find out a little bit more, and there's a comment made about, the leader says we can't have these people back in power. You knew how bad it was before. So I started questioning, are they actually terrorists, or are they trying to prevent a worse evil from taking over? Like, was their country being run by Hydra, And because she makes the mention of, when the blip, things were so much better when the blip happened.
Sure.
Whoever was leading the country was gone because of the blip. So I'm not sure if these Flag Smashers are actually the villains that we're supposed to be going after. Like, I'm not really sure. What is their agenda? What are they trying to stop from happening? Why are they being these vigilantes?
I think that's an interesting point, because you're right. They haven't necessarily done anything evil. I mean, they robbed a place and tried to get away with it, and they fought our heroes. But in some ways, you could say that was a defense, I guess. That would be an interesting direction to go. Now, Carly does mention after tomorrow, there's no going back. Mm-hmm. And that's just sort of where we leave at that. So there was definitely some event going on. I kind of like your ideas that the people that are back are now changing the way that things were ruled, because you would think that when they're talking about things were better during the blip, well, there were less people, so it was quieter. Was that it? But they're not talking about mass killing a bunch of people that we know of. They're talking about the people that are in charge. So you bring up an interesting point I hadn't really thought about, that perhaps they are the false villain of this show. They're the fake out.
And I was wondering are these people that make up this group, are they part of, say, a Hydra superhero experiment that they escaped from? Like, were they all being, because we know they have superpowers of some kind. And what if they're I don't want to use the word victim because that's overused, but what if they're suffering from whatever happened, and that's why they're lashing out and trying to join up and prevent that from happening to someone else. Similar to, say, Natasha going in and trying to stop a startup of the Red Room again.
Okay.
With regards to Carly, I know you liked her character. I wasn't impressed. Sorry.
Sure.
I laughed when I first saw her, because, they're being so aggressive, and then it's this girl with the bright, red hair, and she's got the big smile on, and she puts this mask on, and I'm like, what is this, the Watchdogs? Like, what's going on here? She didn't come across as a threat, really, what I've seen so far. Yes, she has powers. Yes, she's kicking people around, but unless I can see her, do something actually worrisome and villain-esque,
sure,
I can't really take her seriously as a villain yet.
Sure. No.
Where she goes, and maybe
I get that.
The villain.
I get that. Silver Surfer agrees with you. Also thought that Carly was lame. Though Devontae brings up nothing illegal. They stole money. Yes, I agree. And medicine meant for others. Not sure about that. What was it that they stole? We don't know. We know the power broker is after them because they took something. Is that medicine? Is that super soldier serum? Are they intending to create other super soldiers with that? Or, and again, it's interesting. And Devontae, no, I don't disagree. They definitely set them up as the villains, a terrorist group that are out to do bad things. I just would find it interesting, like if what Corrie brought up was right, is that they end up not being the real villains, that for some reason they're trying to stop or alter, or they just have an agenda that's not necessarily villainous, but something else is going to come out of it. I don't know. There's depth that way, and that's more interesting storyteller in my mind. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers all of our big main points. We've got all of our characters, a general arc, where we think we might be going. I don't know, Corrie. Toss something out there. You got an idea?
An idea. Episode 1, the conversation that Sam is having when he's overseas right after his mission with, I don't remember the character's name, the guy with the cell phone who was going to help him get inside information. Do we think he's Enrique? Actually... Pardon?
Was it Enrique? I don't know. I read both the actor and the character's name, and I kept confusing the two of them. But yes, his backup.
Is he someone we can actually trust, or is he? Because he seemed to be asking an awful lot of questions, and he wanted to know where Steve was, and I just got the feeling of, why do you want to know so much? Why are you being so buddy-buddy with Sam? Is this someone we can trust? And if it is, I'm predicting he's probably going to get shot, injured, or killed before the end of this season. Also,
Torres. Thank you, Silva. Appreciate that. Yes. Torres is his name.
Foreshadowing of the government spying on them when Sam is working on Red Wing, and he tells Torres, hey, like, hands off, don't touch. Every time the army gets a handle on this, it goes glitchy. So
yeah, Torres is the new Falcon in the new comics, so they could be setting in that. He definitely does seem to be the fanboy. I'm very excited to be part of this group. How can I do more energy? So I would hope they're leaning more in that direction than having them be kind of a plant. I think that would kind of bum me out. I'd rather have them have some real backup, at least one other person that's behind them, and we'll go for it with them.
Also, the band was playing a jazzy version of Man with a Plan from the original Captain America.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Which is another reason why I was like, this is not Steve, because Steve was completely against that flashy show. Like, he didn't want the showgirl life. he didn't want to be on stage. He felt like he was a monkey doing tricks.
Yeah.
Whereas our new Captain America is playing into that, waving, signing. But again, it's a nice comparison of, yeah, Steve did that too, but he wasn't. That wasn't what he wanted to do.
Well, I don't know. To Walker's defense, he does say something like, I don't like this. I'd rather just do the job. And it's Battlestar that's like, this is part of the job. So,
True.
I mean, maybe a little bit on that. But yeah, he definitely seems to play more into the playing for camera part than Steve did. Don, do you have anything to add onto here?
Listen, I just hope that they have more balance in this show, more patriotism, less of the propaganda of trying to show victims. There aren't any victims out there, okay? There are only people who are trying to make a decent, honest living and uphold the American way. At least that's what they should be trying to do, all right? Yeah, so I'm just I'm hoping that they get rid of the politics in this show, and that they just get to some good old fashioned American butt kicking the way they should be. All right, truth, justice, and the Captain America and Battlestar way. That is what we need in this show.
So glad we have alternate viewpoints here. You can't say we're not balanced, folks. Actually, you can call me unbalanced all you want. You're probably accurate. Just a few little last comments here in the chat. Devontae mentioning that Steve still did the propaganda. Yes, he did. You're right. He punched out Hitler 87 times or whatever number they got. But yeah, he was also not wanting to be the dancing monkey. And V's asking if Sam will be the new Cap with the new Avengers with the kids. I think that might be where they're going for. There's a lot of questions if they're heading for young Avengers to be the new Mantle. I have no idea what Marvel's plans are, but they could definitely work in that direction. Young Avengers. Yeah. Let's see. Silva mentions Young Avengers is whack. Hope they don't go there. Jeffrey Mace is the Patriot kids. Yes, Jeffrey Mace is the Patriot. You have no you have no disagreement from any of us here.
Yeah. Back, we miss him.
You know, I almost threw up a season 4 poster behind me too, and I'll do that next time. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for joining us with this discussion. We will continue these Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. We'll have a nice rotating group of guests here so you can get multiple perspectives and viewpoints. So hopefully you'll be able to catch us then. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button so you get notified whenever these new reviews are dropped or notifications of upcoming reviews. We will go ahead and wrap things up then. Corrie, why don't you add any final thoughts and let people know where they can find you?
Final thoughts. I'm just excited to see where this goes. Hoping we get more action and get some answers to the questions. You know, what exactly is our new Captain America up to? And feeling like we can't 100% trust him, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, and you can follow me on my website at Biblical Bliss. If you type that in Google, it shows up. I'm on YouTube and Facebook too.
Excellent. All right, and our own U.S. agent himself, Don. Any final thoughts? Let people know where they can find you.
Listen, again, I'm hoping that the series goes forward and that they show the true heroics of Captain America and Battlestar and focus less on the Falcon and the social justice soldier, and show the true patriotic spirit and the true nature of America. All right, and no more of this leftist propaganda trying to besmirch our good name across the world. Right? But listen, if you like, you can find me on Twitter defending America and American freedoms at Willie. That is IDONWILLI. And you can catch me here also defending true American values whenever they need someone to balance out against these left-wing people who just do not love America and our freedoms, right? So go Captain America and Battlestar, right?
God, I feel like Bucky every time he says Battlestar. I just want to get up and walk away. Everyone, I'm D. You're watching my channel here. We do lots of crazy stuff. Like I said, we'll be covering Falcon and Winter Soldier through its run. We do owe you a season 2 of Agent Carter. We'll be getting that to you when we can. We also have season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming up after that. Maybe we'll do a month of just giant AOS reviews. Keep an eye on the channel. We'll let you know when that's going on. Thank you so much for joining with me. And I just want you to know that I believe in the legend of America, much like Steve did. The reality, no, not always quite so much. But I'm fine with that. Thanks, everyone, for joining us live. Thank you for joining us in the archives. And we will catch you next time. So take care and bye-bye.